They don't have a sign that says Blood Hill down by Harrisville Village. There's just a sign that says Cobb Hill Estates. And Blood Hill turns into Cobb Hill. And Cobb Hill Estates is at the top of a road that veers off of Cobb Hill. I think it's all called Cobb Hill. So this whole area known as Cobb Hill, it looks like a lot of money's in that area. And it also appears like the same group of people, the same person or the same group of people own that whole area, and it's all related. So a lot of money's in this area. So you have the Nubanusset Lake on one side, all those lake houses, all those summer houses, and on the other side, you have Harrisville Pond, and that group of lake houses around that pond, which is kind of like a lake. So my guess is that it's a very expensive place to live at. Now let me first tell everybody, this place is in the middle of nowhere. Harrisville Village, it isn't really a village. I think they have a little convenience store up there. They got a library, and they have like a place where a couple of businesses are out of, supposedly, but that's it. Harrisville Village is basically a bunch of summer houses around the Harrisville Pond. From that area called Harrisville Village, you have to drive 30 to 40 minutes to get to an area like Keene, where there's hotels and Walmarts and gas stations and stores, and it's more like a village or a town. So you're out in the middle of nowhere. That's the first thing people should understand. Now I guess when people get married, what happens is they usually get married in a church, and then they go to a hotel with a banquet or a conference hall in that hotel, and they have a DJ, they have dinner, they have music, drinking, and then people could stay in the hotel if they want to. I think usually the bride and the groom will stay in the hotel one night, and then they'll go on their honeymoon. They'll go to an airport the next day and take off to the Bahamas or to Hawaii or wherever they're going to spend their honeymoon. And so what happens is, my guess is that a couple will find this Cobb Hill Estates on the internet when they're looking for places to get married. And what might appeal to them is that it's an outdoor area. They'll target people from maybe Boston or Massachusetts, from a little bit more metropolitan type area, and they'll find this Cobb Hill Estates on the internet, and they'll go down and they'll see the Harrisville Village. So here's some video of Harrisville Village, and it looks like a nice, interesting area, but all of this is basically residential houses. It's not like there's a boardwalk or anything to do down there. No bars, nothing like that. But still it looks very nice. So I bet you they get the bride and groom down there. They'll see how beautiful downtown Harrisville is, and then they'll take them up this very wooded, remote road, which is probably beautiful in the spring and the summer. And they'll get to the top of this Cobb Hill Estate, and they'll basically fall in love with the area. I bet you anything, these people will offer them champagne and show them all the wonderful accommodations there. So when the bride and groom make an appointment to go up there to meet with the owners of Cobb Hill Estate, who will go over the facilities, the accommodations, and what they offer, I'm guessing, I bet you they put the people over there toward the house, the main house. However, based on their videos, it seems that they will push the cottage. And this cottage looks more like a shed. But I can see how people who could be very enthusiastic about the area will not pay much attention to that. And these people that run Cobb Hill Estate most likely will push them toward the shed, because a lot of the videos are just focused on this shed. Like, that is like the end all to all honeymoon suites. Now, they don't show any photographs of the inside of the shed, but my guess is that they do not even have a sink or running water in that shed, in that cottage. there's a photograph of about 10 people standing in front of that shed. Judging by the people standing in front of the shed, I would guess that that shed isn't bigger than about 15 or 20 feet long. And it looks even less wide than that. So when you get your tape measure out and you kind of go over the dimensions on the floor, it looks like they barely have enough room for maybe a full-size bed in there. And then they have that front little porch where the bride and groom could spend their wedding night looking at a sunset. Now, if that isn't spending your honeymoon as the Beverly Hillbillies enough, they also have this other feature, which is trying to get people into a tent. And they call it glamping. And the video that they have on their website is very misleading at best. They have a tent, and on the ground they put a carpet, and they put like a full-size bed and a dresser, and they say it has Wi-Fi. And when they show a picture of it, that's it. You get a large tent with a full-size bed in there. And then it says Egyptian copper sink. And that is very misleading, because in the photograph of the glamping tent, they just show the full-size bed. That's it. There's no place for a shower or a sink. And anyway, how are you going to get running water into a tent? So I believe what they do is they get the people up there in a tent, and it gets real dark out in the country at night. Anybody who's gone camping could attest to how dark it gets out in the middle of the country in the middle of the night. And then they show a lady taking a shower. And all you see is the water coming down over her face, and the background is like black. So my first question is, where are these facilities? If you're glamping, if you're going glamorous camping on your honeymoon, where are the shower and sink facilities? Especially out in the middle of the woods, where it could get pretty dark. So if you imagine being on your honeymoon, or your first night of being married, and you're out there in a tent in the middle of this field, and you have to get up and walk to the facilities in a separate building. So I started thinking about that. Where will the facilities be? So I see the main house, and then I see a smaller house that looks more like a garage. And on one video, they have a sign on it that says carriage house. It appears like the same building. And in another video, what appears to be the same building has a sign that says Utopia on it. There's two signs on that door. One says, please take your shoes off. And the second one says, don't drink the tap water. So I think that's one of the only 3 buildings they have at that location. They have the main house. They have this garage thing, and then they have this little cottage shed, aka the honeymoon suite. So to say one last thing about this glamorous camping or glamping, in the video advertising that, it says, why stay at a hotel when you could be close to the action? And then it cuts to the tent with the DJ and the wedding party and the dance floor. Now this is also very misleading, because there's no hotels in the area. The nearest hotel that I know about is about a half hour to 40 minutes away in Keene. There is nothing in this downtown Harrisville. So they kind of encourage people to stay at a tent or at a shed if they want to use these facilities to have a wedding party at, to have the ceremony and the wedding party at. So I can see through these videos, they are really encouraging people to spend their wedding night at a tent or at a shed. At the top of this hill, where I didn't see any spotlights, where I didn't see any floodlights, where it could probably get very dark, And if you're out there in a tent or in a cottage without running water, it'll be a big pain in the neck to get up and have to walk out in the darkness to go to these places, especially on your wedding night. So I imagine that people will get very enthusiastic about this area as an outdoor area to get married. They are probably brought into the house, which looks okay. You can look at a few of these photographs of the house, but I would imagine that they're corralled into the house at a bridal shower, or especially when they're being sold on spending their wedding night and having their wedding ceremony at that location. And they are just sidetracked into thinking that all the accommodations will be there. And then surprise, surprise, on their wedding night, after they get done opening presents, eating cake, dancing, drinking, eating, and they want to go retire, they're going to retire to a place without running water. So I've been to a few weddings, and usually the people get married in a church around the afternoon, and then everyone drives to the hotel, and I would say around 6 or 7 o'clock at night, things start to wind down. And that is because they want to encourage everybody to not stay there at the wedding party and get drunk until very late at night and then have to worry about driving drunk or this or that and the other thing. So they kind of want everybody to kind of like figure out what to do when it's still relatively early. So I can imagine that the caterers and everybody who is in charge of this wedding start to pack it up. The wedding guests have a long drive back to Massachusetts or Connecticut or New York or to a larger city in New Hampshire, so they want to get on the road a little bit early. And of course the bride and the groom want to spend some alone time. So maybe they go back to their cottage and they see that someone has left maybe champagne or something at that cottage, and maybe they go to sleep. And then when they wake up later that night, they wake up in the darkness out there and there's nothing to drink. And then they go around trying to find where they can use the bathroom. And I can imagine them going over to the house or to that other building and finding them both locked. Nobody comes to answer the door. And what I found in one of the photographs in these videos that were put on the Cobb Hill Estate website was a picture of what looks like porta potties, outhouses. There are 2 outhouses with this trellis kind of built around it, which suggests this is a permanent feature. So imagine you're out there on your wedding night and you're expected to use an outhouse and it's pitch dark out there or not well lit, and you're stuck there in a little shed or in a tent, and every time you want to use the bathroom you have to go over to a porta potty and there's no shower there, because that's what it looks like to me. Them gearing everybody up to stay up there. And the best we have for you in every one of our videos and every one of our photographs is the prestigious shed over here. And there definitely isn't any bathroom shown in the photographs of the glamping accommodations or a large tent. But this is stuff that wouldn't occur to people. Normal people would have the best accommodations if they're renting areas out for people to get married at. If I was in charge of that estate, it would be the best accommodations possible for anybody who would honor me as my guest. And anybody who would go up there wouldn't have to worry about any of that. And that's how normal people are. They trust one another.